Good afternoon. This is New Era Gardener, NEG, and today I'm just going to make a couple of videos on my worm castings, and I'm going to feed some of them. This is one of my bins here that actually is coming up to be actually harvest soon. Probably about another month it'll be ready. If you look at it, it looks good as is. This particular bin, when it was set up, it had coconut core, newspaper, cardboard, and some organic matter from my compost bin from out in the yard, my tumble bins. So mixed it in, so it is a little chunky. It does have a lot of biochar in it, but as you can see, it also has a lot of particles of wood and twigs and sticks and things like that. But it looks real good. If I wanted to, based on the feel of the product, I could harvest it now, but I like to let it go to full 3 months. I mean, there are some nice size worms in here. They're very happy. Twigs. There's worms throughout this, so it's a real good healthy bin. They're happy. As you can see, the worms. I'm just going to turn the bin just to kind of mix up the moisture, mix up the product. Here's a corn husk that I put in there. They devoured it. I'll leave it in there until I harvest. Let them continue having fun with it. But those castings look good. Here's another piece. There's worm castings inside that with smaller worms. That's where the little babies like to hide, you know. But this is a very healthy bin. It's got good moisture. That's why I said it can be harvested now, but I'm gonna let it go. Everybody's different how you want to harvest your bins. If you look at your product and at your castings and you say, those look good, I could go ahead and do it. Yeah, you can go ahead and do it, but the more you feed them and you do the longer time, the more ratio of castings you're going to get mixed in your worm castings. And actually it's worm compost, vermicompost. So you get quite a bit more in it the longer you let it sit and allow them to continue to work the product. So I like to let mine go to full 3 months, and if I looked at it and I feel it should go another month, I let it go another month. But these castings, they look good. They're dark. They look good. They're fluffy. I can look at it and see that it's full of castings and compost. So it looks good. I'm going to be switching over pretty soon, and probably going to start doing a little more videos on my worm castings from beginning to end, checking on them, talking about what I do in the middle of how I go from beginning to end with the castings, my bedding, the minerals I put in it, which I think has actually allowed these worms to be very, very happy and give me plenty of castings. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start talking about that. But in the meantime, I'm going to be changing out my bins. I'm gonna go to a much uniform bin, the same size bin for all of them, so that this way, when I say I'm putting 6 inches of bedding in it, all of them have 6 inches of bedding. Based on the size and the width of the new bin, the bin's going to be a little bit smaller than this. I'm going to say it's probably going to be the inside of this size. I'll show you a bin. I actually know the bin I'm getting, and I actually measured it. It's very similar to one of the other bins that I'm going to show you soon, but this way they all have the same amount of castings in it. The only thing that's going to vary is how many worms you have in it, because even though you can say I have a pound of worms in here, that doesn't mean I have 1,000 worms in here, because these big nice fat worms, 1,000 of these could be, a pound of these could be 900, could be 800. I'm not trying to spoil anybody's notion of when they buy worms and they say I get a pound, I'm going to get 1,000. I don't sell the worms. I just continue to let them go, and they will regulate themselves. They die off. They get old. They die off. The population grows. It goes down. So I don't sell my worms. I had thought about selling my worms, but I decided not to. But if you look at some of my other bins, they may be thinner worms, smaller worms, not as fat as these guys. So it's going to take more to make that pound. I just try to use a little common sense when I start looking at my worms and how many worms that I have in a bin. I don't know how many worms are in here. I could weigh this up in the end. I used to do that, used to weigh it up, and I would weigh this up. Let's per se, I would weigh this up, these worms up, and I might have 18 ounces. So that's 1.25 pounds, let's say. But that may only be 1,000 worms in this bin, based on the fact that they are much fatter worms. So they hold a little more water, and that means that they actually are more. So, but that's how I look at it. So I don't look at my bins and say, all right, this is 1,000 worms in here anymore. I basically just, there are worms in there. They're populating it. Some of my bins, for some reason, the worms, when I clean out, they could be thin, straggly worms. They could be long worms like that. They could be worms like that, but longer, and they're just not as fat as what you're seeing in here. So what you get, what I have in here, I don't say that. I just try to keep a nice balance in there based on eyeballing what my worms are. I can have little worms, and that could be 1 pound, but that can be 1,500 worms. That can be 1,800 worms. You know, so it's just based on it's smaller worms, you get more. So that's how I look at it. But that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go to doing just a regular bin that's similar to this size, a little bit smaller, and I probably will only put 5 inches of bedding in there and allow them to go. So that's what I'm going to do. But this bin, like I said, I'm not going to feed it any solid food or any mush food. I'm going to feed it which I can't find right now, my worm chow, and that's what you got to do. You look at your moisture, and you kind of look and see what the castings are doing, and yes, it's I think we all have heard from the beginning that you want 6 inches of product in there. But to me, based on the size of the container, you may not want 6 inches of product in there. So you might want 5. I'm kind of erring on the side that mine's going to be about 5 inches based on it's a smaller bin. And what I have in here for worms. I have one bin that I cleaned out this weekend. even though it had a lot of worms in it, they were smaller worms. I put a little note on that bin. On the inside I wrote add. So when I clean out a bin and I have a lot of worms in that particular bin, I'm going to take some of those worms and add into that bin. Just because that bin, it seems to me the population is down a little bit, even though they're smaller worms. A lot of baby worms, but they're going to get big. But I'm still going to add a little bit of worms to that. So when I start out with my bins now, I'm going to do probably going to start with probably about 8 bins. So I'm going to purchase 8 bins, and as I clean out the bins, I'm going to switch to the new bins. And at that time, I'm also going to film a little different too. You're actually going to see who I am as New Era Gardener and see the bins and how I interact with my bins. So that's going to change also. So that's what's going to happen. And this is a good, healthy bin. So I'm very happy with that. I'm going to close this one back up. I got to find my worm chow. I usually have it right over here. I don't have it. So we'll feed this one afterwards. So here's a bin. This was last harvested on 8/9. It's got we have a little bit of gnats coming out of this particular bin, and I see them. This one also has a lot of organic matter from outside. If you see this bin, if you're looking at this bin, you can see it there. I have not yet to stir this bin up. I like to do them halfway through. As you can see, it's got a lot of organic matter, good moisture, no dry spots. But it does have some gnats in there, or I'm going to say flies. I can already see there. This product on top looks extremely good. It looks like castings. I did also, I won't say made the mistake, but also put in, whole food in this particular bin. Also, I had some cucumbers that, were oddly shaped, and I cut them in half, took the seeds out, and I put them in there. So I think that's where we're also getting some of the gnats from. But this bin, you might as well say, is only a month old. And look at the castings, look at the worms. Nice size worms in here. Nice size worms. Nice and moist, not wet. Nice moisture at the bottom. Doesn't really have much of that corner's a little bit moist than the other spots, but I mean, look at the worms. This is what I'm saying. This bin also had paper in it, but there's not a lick of paper in it right now. The worms also, if you don't feed them and there's no food for them, let me tell you, they will eat the coconut core, they will eat the organic matter, they will eat the paper. So there's not a problem with that. There is some biochar, like I said, in here. Not a ton of it, but there is some biochar. This is the first time this bin is getting mixed up. So nice moisture. Kind of bring the moisture up from the bottom to the top, just to kind of even out the moisture. And if you have any castings that are on the bottom, you're bringing them to the top, let them dry out a little bit. But like I said, this bin is only a month old. I did it on 8/9. We're 8/7 right now. I mean 9/7 right now. I mean, and they're going through this material really good. So I'm gonna see this bin pretty soon start to level out and kind of sink down a little bit and not be as high, and that's because of the castings and the product that's in here that they're just going to continue to eat. That's what you want. Good moisture. It looks good. I'm happy with this bin. I want to get through about 3 of the different bins I have, just to kind of show you. This one, like I said, did have some organic matter in it that you saw once I opened it up. What I've been doing also is, as I get close, I mean, look at the worms. I mean, these are nice sized worms. This is what I mean by this particular bin and the other bin could have the same amount of worms in it, but there could be more worms in there based on the size. So that's a good bin. And what I do is, like I said, if I feel a bin is a little too moist for me, I wind up taking its cover off. All my bins will have a piece of filter fabric in it, and that holds in the moisture. But if I feel like it's a little moist, I will take that out and give it some time to let some of the moisture out of it. And a lot of times I do that right before I'm going to, the week before I'm going to harvest it. I will take that off, I will let it breathe, I will mix it up a little bit more, so if there's any moisture on the bottom, I bring it to the top. But that's another good bin. I'm gonna grab another bin. I'm gonna try to grab an older bin. All right, this bin was harvested on 7/4, and also what I do is also, while you're seeing, oh, see, there we go, from the cucumber I was feeding them. Also, what you're also looking at is, like I said, some of this is organic matter from my garden, from my compost bins, but also sometimes I try to clean as much of the biochar and the stuff that didn't break down off of the worms, but then sometimes I just mix it right back on top when I'm done, and then it'll get mixed through when I do so, when I mix it up. Once again, this one is its first time being mixed up. There are some seeds from the different things. Now, like I said, I mean, look at this. That's beautiful castings right on top. That looks extremely good. This is just castings on top. I mean, look at, this is what I'm speaking on, the worms. The worms in size could be nice size big worms. Those are nice size big worms. So I'm gonna this bin, no, it's okay. I was gonna say this bin is a little dry, and I don't want to say dry, I shouldn't say dry, it's not as moist as I would like it to be, but at the same time the worms look good. they're nice size worms. I mean, look at them. They're nice size worms. And if I would say, is there as many worms in this particular bin as the other bin, other two bins I just checked? I would say no. So that's what I'm speaking on, where you can have more worms in one bin and another bin could be less worms. Some of these bins I am going to keep at the end when I start changing out different bins, because if I start, when I get the baby worms, I'm going to just start to put them in a bin like this and kind of let them go. But this bin this bin's ready. It's supposed to be done actually October. This is supposed to be done in October. But I kind of think this bin is going to get done before. I mean, it's nice black. They made good work of that. And like I said, you know, that can also be the fact that this one particular bin didn't have 6 inches of merchandise of bedding in it. But this bin is ready. Feels good. I see a lot of castings. It's ready to go. And I talked in one of my other videos, last video, I think I did post it, about your bedding and about some are ready before others. And if you're in tune to your bins, you'll know if these bins are ready or not. This bin is ready. I'm not going to do it this week, next week. I'm going to do it on the 27th, or, you know, towards the end of this month. Only because, like I said, it does feel a little drier than I like it. It's not as moist as I would like it. It is moist. I'm not worried about the worms, you know, being uncomfortable. There's plenty of moisture in it. So I'm happy with that. So that's another bin. That's another good bin. It does have the moisture being held down, and I should say also, I also believe the reason why there's also a lot of big worms in there also in those bins that I was talking about. I feed them 3 different things. I feed them, you know, organic matter, scraps from, you know, salads and cucumbers and stuff from the garden. Squash that I might have had that got too big or died on the vine. I feed them that. I also feed them worm chow, worm food. And then on top of it, I also feed them some alpaca manure. So since I got this one open and the alpaca manure is handy to me, I'm going to feed this one alpaca. And what I do is I have an old food processor, and I take the alpaca and I blend it up, shred it up, and that's what I feed them. So I'm going to put this back on top. That bin's good. I'm happy with that bin. A lot of fat, happy worms in there. But that's what we do. And